Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living. I'm your host and life coach, Ellen Nicholas Rathbone, here to welcome you to another phenomenal episode of Pleasure. And I have with me a wonderful guest today. His name is Peter DeFranzo, and he's a personal trainer. And he's not just a personal trainer, he's an excellent personal trainer who has helped so many people with so many conditions and goals and everybody being so different, from a young woman who wanted to look phenomenal in her wedding dress to a stroke survivor and to everything in between. So Peter knows about fitness and all the different levels that a person can be at and what they can do to improve their condition. So without further ado, I want to bring my guest on. And if you have questions, please do post them, because this is your opportunity to get some information from a phenomenal personal trainer. So there he is. Hi, Peter.
Hello. Thank
Nice
you.
to
Thank you
see
very
you.
much for having me, Ellen.
Oh,
Really
my
appreciate being
absolute
here.
pleasure. Oh, my goodness. It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. It's so good to see you. It's been too long.
Thank you. Likewise.
Right. Okay. So, Peter, today's show, we're going to talk about moving more to feel better and to live longer. And, it always toasts my cookies when people say, well, I walk. As if walking in itself is enough to, keep that muscle mass and to, just keep those processes working. What is your opinion about walking as exercise, and how long would a person have to walk to really get any kind of gains?
Well, so what walking is better than sitting on the couch. That
Okay.
that I can say.
Right.
But in terms of especially as people age in particular, because that's the kind of, at least in my experience training, that's the kind of demographic people as they age that tend towards just walking as a form of exercise. And in that situation, that's really not going to be enough to even it might be for some level of general fitness, but it really won't bring you anywhere past that, like helping with your balance so that you don't fall and break a knee or a hip.
Right.
It won't really help you do any kind of other activities that maybe you enjoy or used to enjoy, like say playing tennis or golf or things like that. For
Right.
that, you would really want to do things like resistance training or weight bearing activity. That doesn't necessarily mean getting under like a super heavy barbell and trying to be a bodybuilder, by no means.
Right.
But resistance training is especially as you age, the way to build balance, the strength to prevent injury, reduce aches and pains, be able to do the kinds of things that you like to do,
Right.
and increase bone mass, and all of those types of things, reduce cholesterol, manage blood pressure.
Right.
Those are all going to come from a combination of resistance training with cardiovascular activity, which would also be more strenuous than just walking.
Right. When someone says to me that they walk, I say, well, you could walk from here to China and it's not going to help your shoulders, your biceps, your back. You're not adding any muscle mass to your body. I mean, the human body is meant to walk. It's meant to move around a lot. And in the before time, thousands of years ago, the body hasn't really changed from then. And, you had to walk, you had to run, you had to do whatever you had to do to eat. Today, we don't have to do anything except pick up the phone and call for delivery. So the body is not getting enough movement. And I think that is one of the main reasons why so many people are falling apart. They're literally falling apart. I meet young people in their early 40s. I'll say 40 to me is not old, and that already they're starting to have all kinds of issues and stuff. Now, how much exercise, and I hate to use the word exercise because people see it as like a dirty word, but how much intentional, stressful movement should an individual get on a weekly basis so that they can keep their body at a level of fitness that is functional for a lifetime?
So that's I mean, the best answer to that is it depends.
Okay. Okay.
Really, it depends on where you're starting from, what type of fitness level you have. If you haven't done anything for the past X number of years except sit on the sofa, the recommendation there is going to be very different than if you're someone that, let's say, like, does walk and occasionally goes on hikes and maybe plays here and there in a pickleball league or something like that. That recommendation would be different. The kind of thing, like, going by the book of like, and by no means am I a doctor or a chiropractor or a physical therapist. I'm a personal trainer and corrective exercise specialist. But what the doctors might say is, like, 3 times a week, like a half hour to 45 minutes of somewhat strenuous cardiovascular activity paired with 2 days a week of of resistance training for, 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
at least that's, to my knowledge, what is currently being recommended or starting to be recommended, by doctors.
Right.
But that could be a whole lot if you're starting from square one. uh, and definitely and could be an overwhelming amount to try to consider and be like, whoa, like, I have to exercise 5 days a week, or wow, like, I need to go from 0 hours to 5 or 6 hours a week or something like that.
Right.
And um in that case, I would, recommend starting with 1 to 2 hours a week with guidance, especially because a lot of times, people go into a fitness journey thinking, I just need to kill myself on an elliptical or on a treadmill or something like that. And that's not really the answer. That's kind of the way to burn out, potentially get hurt, and start all over again.
Right.
Really, from the start, that's the best time to have some guidance about how to learn different skills with exercise, and actually approach exercise as if it is different skills that need to be learned
Right.
versus just running on a treadmill.
Right.
Because even with just running on a treadmill, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but down a rabbit hole. But most people, from the context of everyday lives of sitting at a desk and being hunched over here and having different muscles be very tight and other muscles be away on vacation, for lack of a better term, right? Don't move all that well. And some of that cardiovascular activity, particularly running, can be highly impactful and actually do more harm than good from the get-go.
Right.
So,
Right. I totally agree.
yeah.
Well, I sell fitness at RWJ, as you know,
Mhm.
and I there's a lot of people, especially elderly people, who come before me, and I tell them that they get 2 sessions with a personal trainer. I said, now they're going to create a workout for you. I said, but it's really important that if you do not have proper exercise technique and form, that
Mhm.
you hire a trainer. I think everybody needs to hire a trainer, even if it's just for 8 sessions, 16 sessions, whatever, so that they can understand that there's a proper way to lift, There's a proper way to do a squat. There's a proper way to do a deadlift. There's all kinds of exercises that you can do. But if you're doing them incorrectly, you are exercising your muscles incorrectly. And that is how your muscles are going to develop incorrectly. So then instead of you fixing the balance, that or the imbalance that you might have, say in your gait, the way you walk or the way you sit or the way you lift, it's, you know, you favored one side or the other, you've developed the muscles incorrectly, and you're not really going to be as strong as you think you are or want to be. I think even down the line that kind of causes the body harm if your muscles are incorrectly trained. Am I right?
Right, absolutely. So there's there's two kinds of things, or two different kinds of injuries, or way to think about injuries from exercise, or just everyday life, and that's chronic movement patterns and acute injuries. So uh, a chronic movement pattern would be that example of always sitting at a desk like this and then ending up with a kyphotic posture or a rounding of the mid back or thoracic spine, so that
Right,
even when you're standing up straight, you're rounded forward like this.
right.
And I can pretty much guarantee, like, anybody watching this has seen someone that has posture like that, and
Right.
that comes from a lifetime of not being active and doing certain activities, like being hunched over at a desk or repetitive motions day after day after day.
Yeah.
An acute injury would be something that happens all of a sudden. You know,
Mhm.
you're playing tennis or soccer, basketball, you slip and tear an ACL, right? Because you landed wrong, or someone like bumped into your knee when you had it, or bumped into your knee, like when you had it planted, right?
Right.
But also, it can be said that acute injuries are more likely to happen if chronic movement patterns are not good,
Yeah.
because to your point, there's certain muscles that you know, atrophy or go away on vacation, aren't contributing to certain movement patterns, namely the abdominals and the core musculature, right? And that leads to some of that hunching over and everything. If that's not supporting you and other things aren't supporting you, other things are going to get tight from taking over, and then that's then going to cause pain and lead to injury.
Right.
Um, there's also now that I think about it, there's also overuse injuries, and that would
Mhm.
be the kinds of things like a tendonitis, right? A tennis elbow, a golf elbow, things of that nature. So yeah.
So now let me ask you,
Mhm.
you know, that hunched over position that you were talking about. I mean, if a person's been like that for say 20, 30 years, is that correctable?
To an extent, right? Once again, a lot of the kinds of answers like this start with, well, it depends.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay. As long as,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, there's no, it's not a solid answer. It can't be a solid answer for everybody. Everybody's
Mhm.
at a different level of fitness. So we're going to
Mhm.
make that perfectly clear. But my understanding of the body is that it's a river of information and energy. And
Mhm.
that if you are, uh, you're doing the same patterns over and over again, then your body is going to look a certain way. Well, if
Mhm.
you change those patterns and correct those patterns, then the body can move in a different direction. There's an old Ayurvedic saying that says, if you want to know what you were thinking 30 years ago, look at your body today. And if you want to know what your body is going to look like in 30 years, look at your thinking today. So, you know, it's really does start with your mind,
Mhm.
and knowing that there's a problem and wanting to make that correction. No one reaches perfection, of course, right? but we try to maintain homeostasis. We try to maintain balance. And you do that by recognizing that there is something wrong and fixing it. And I think that's where the personal trainer is very, very helpful. I'm very pro personal trainers, and I think
Mhm.
everyone should have one for at least. That's an investment in your health. That is most definitely an investment in how your body is going to work properly. So,
Yeah,
um,
I definitely, I mean, obviously being in this profession, I would agree with that.
right, right, right. And
Yeah.
it seems that the people who need the trainer the most are the ones that want it the least. And that's kind of sad because they're not going to be able to fix themselves. If you haven't been able to fix yourself up until now without help, what makes you think you're going to be able to fix yourself on your own? You're going to need somebody to help you bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be, and that's when
Mhm.
the trainer's expertise really is invaluable. So
Yeah, I mean, it is, especially with certain things, like anything, there's good and there's not so good trainers. So like all of this, like when we're talking about a trainer, it's like a good trainer, right? So it's
right,
possible
yes,
that you've had a bad experience with a trainer before, and it's likely because they were crap. Hmm.
right,
And and so there's things that you would want to look for or to ask to a trainer to screen them to see if they're good, and if they are going to be for you. And we can talk about that if you would want to, but just to circle back to the last thing, especially with certain conditions like the kyphotic posture or the rounded forward, or if you have something that is currently bothering you, like a golf or a tennis elbow, or low back nagging, those kinds of things. Um, those aren't things that are just going to go away by not moving,
right,
right? So the big topic of the day today is move more, feel better, live longer.
right,
Right. So a lot of times, I'll run into things where people have been recommended by whatever person in their life, maybe even someone in the medical field that says, you shouldn't move. And most of the time, that is completely absurd. Like the kind of thing when I hear someone say, they come in and they say, like, I shouldn't squat, right? Um, That's the kinda thing. Well, okay, you're sitting in this chair right now. How did you sit in this chair? Mm, right.
I
How many
flopped in
times,
it.
how many times do you stand up and sit down out of a chair or a
Right.
sofa every day? Like, using the toilet?
Yeah.
Right? So, like, that's all squatting. So, to tell someone that you shouldn't ever squat
Yeah.
is absolutely asinine, right?
Yeah.
I almost don't even care, like, what the situation is, right?
Right.
So,
Well,
is it
9 months
the kind of thing,
pregnant,
like,
you
is it
shouldn't
the
be
kind of
doing
thing,
squats, okay?
yeah, is it the kind of thing that, should everybody be doing a barbell, like, weight, like, backloaded squat? Like, absolutely not,
Not right,
right?
right.
But being able to control your body weight through a squatting motion is absolutely essential to everyday life and quality of life.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
those are the kinds of things that get ruined from this everyday chronic movement patterns of being at a computer, sitting at a desk, and things like that, and hunching over to this kyphotic posture.
Right,
And you see it more and more now with younger people because of how popular video games are, and just like being on devices and having smartphones and everything like that.
right.
If you start when you're younger, it will be able to be completely undone. It gets to a certain point, like, in your life, you see how I, like, full circled this back, like, I didn't forget. I'm so proud of myself right now. Uh, uh,
I'm proud
so,
of you
eh
too.
so as you get older, right, like, into your 50s and 60s and 70s, only so much of that will be able to be undone. Like,
Right.
you can't go from a lifetime of having a certain posture to undoing that posture in a matter of months or like a few training sessions. That's
No,
just
no,
like
no.
completely unrealistic.
Right.
Um, but you can drastically improve that. And the kind of thing that I always say is it's never too late to start. It's always too late not to.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
like, when in having that guidance for those types of conditions is the best way to go from the start. Um,
Absolutely.
Not just to make sure that you don't get hurt, but to make sure that you learn the things that you can then go forward and, do this on your own and be confident that you are actually working towards your goals in a way where you're not gonna get hurt.
Right. You
To
know,
live feel better and live longer.
to live longer, right? Because if you're feeling like you can't get out of a chair, you can't climb steps, you can't lift a skillet, you can't
Mhm.
lift a grocery bag, you can't lift children, you can't run if you need to. Who like what is the point of being on this planet if you can't do anything? The body has to be
Mhm.
taken care of. And when when civilization wasn't as convenient, because I really think convenience has undermined our health tremendously. But when civilization wasn't so convenient, you had to walk to find food. You had to
Right,
climb trees. You had to do all kinds of activities that you used your body all the time. But in our very cushy society, we sit an awful lot. We don't have to use our muscles. And so it becomes essential to invest at least a few hours a week in strengthening the muscles, adding to the bone density, and then through the bone density, where your blood is made in the bone marrow, there's a cascade of hormones that will help your body to regulate just because you're doing something to maintain your muscle mass and your bone density. I mean, people don't realize it that they're by sitting a lot and not never doing any kind of resistance exercises, that
mhm,
their bones are getting thinner. That's the number one biomarker of aging is thinning bones, and you can't see it. You can't see your bones. So how do you know that they're thinning?
right,
The bottom line is it's one of the most serious injuries of people as they get older. They fall and they break a hip, and it's downhill from there.
right.
So I was just
A doctor actually once told me that they have a saying that you break a hip and die of pneumonia.
right, right.
Yeah,
Now,
'cause,
what do you think about swimming as a resistance exercise? Is it as good as weight training? Because a lot of people come to me at the gym and they just want to swim. And I tell them, I say, you could swim from here to China and it's not going to change your bone density. It's good for your heart, it's good for your muscles, but it's not enough. Well, what do you think? Am I telling them incorrectly?
no, I would also agree with that. I mean, if you're gonna compare swimming to, say, something like walking, I mean, swim away. Like,
Right, right, right.
you know what I mean? And ultimately, the real secret is, like, the best exercise is the exercise that you're going to actually do,
Do. Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
I mean, if you're going to do these things, like, do something rather than nothing, but,
Yes.
swimming is absolutely not going to result in the same changes to bone density or building of muscle mass as resistance training. It's just
Right.
not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just I try to convince people that they need to have a more rounded view of what fitness is. I mean, some
Mhm.
people just want to lift, and other people just want to run, and other people just want to swim. And I'm like, a little
Mhm.
bit of everything, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of this, a little bit of
Mhm.
that. And, because
It's
your
funny you
body's
should say that.
telling you.
I am also guilty of this, right? I do this for a living, but, I'm about to compete in my first powerlifting competition, right?
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah, so my like, right now, I lift something really heavy, like 4 or 5 times, and then I sit down and I talk to my friends for 5 minutes. It's like my favorite way to exercise ever, but like that's a sport that's not being generally healthy like you're talking about, like
Right.
doing a little bit of everything. Um is absolutely important. Like, we're not over here saying that, like, you shouldn't ever walk, like, by no means. We're
Oh,
just saying
absolutely
that,
not.
like, we're just harping a little bit on the importance of, like, resistance training to, like, like, moving better, feeling better and living longer, but not just longer, like, actually having a good quality of life.
Quality of life.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because
Mhm.
I mean, that's the point of life, is to enjoy your life.
Mhm.
And if you have a level of fitness where you have good aerobic capacity, you have good flexibility, you have strength, and you have endurance. I mean, these are all the elements that really give you a feeling of well-being, that you have confidence because of these things. You know that you can run if you need to, climb if you need to. You never know when an emergency is going to come up in your life, and you might live in the
Mhm.
safest place in the world, but you still never know when an emergency is going to happen. And it would really be a shame that in that time of emergency you end up breaking something or having a heart attack or God knows what, because you never ever take care of your body. So that to me is one of the most important things I hope we stress here today, is that your body is going to respond to the requirements that you ask of it. And if you
Right.
ask of it at least 3 times or 4 times a week to be strong, to be flexible, to have aerobic capacity, then it will say, oh, I know how to do this. And it will respond as if you're just doing another workout. Even if it's just an emergency thing that's happening, it will respond like, oh, I got this. I've been doing this forever. But if you've never done anything and some kind of an emergency shows up in your life, that could be the last emergency you attend. And it doesn't have to be that way. People need to just
Right.
understand that, you know, this is the only body you get. This is not the trial model. And if you want it to be strong and able and reliable for the long run, you
Mhm.
actually have to take care of it. And take care of it is not just feeding it and washing it, but actually working it in a systematic way, so that you develop your muscles properly, so that you have proper bone density, proper flexibility. All these things are so incredibly important. Is
Right.
there anything else that you would like to say? I think we're coming to, I mean, I could talk to you forever, Peter. You're one of my favorite people in the whole world. And,
Mhm.
I'm so happy
Likewise.
that you're here today. Is there anything that you would like to end with as far as this conversation is?
So today we've talked a whole lot about why it's important to move better, and the kinds of thing, or the importance of resistance training to being an element of that, in addition to cardiovascular activity like walking and swimming.
Right,
um I just want to highlight once again that that is the kind of thing that is typically the most intimidating and requires the most instruction to learn the skill sets to do, to not get hurt.
right,
Um, this is the kind of thing that you can do from home, right? There's if you don't want to go to a fitness facility, right? There's ways to get equipment from home and train virtually nowadays. Um, really quickly, I just want to share a couple of those things of what you would look for in a good trainer,
okay,
if you're seeking that kind of guidance, so that you don't end up having a bad experience, or even worse yet, have someone that appears to be qualified hurt you, right?
right,
Um, so is is this person able to have a conversation intelligently and explain to you about which specific muscles and like why this is happening, or is it just like, yeah, like do what I say, right?
Right, right,
Someone that like absolutely like kills their clients and has them like crawling out and it's like, huh, like I just got them like so sore, like they're probably not going to come back for like 3 days, like, and whereas that as like a badge of honor is an absolutely horrible trainer. Like
right,
stay away from that person, right?
right,
um Someone that is attentive, doesn't just like sit in one place on their cell phone like while someone is doing an exercise like right in front of them.
right,
Changes the angles in which they're watching the exercise, gives feedback during a set, after a set. You can overhear people like trainers like just being on equipment like near them, how they cue their clients, and recommend like, oh, like with this, like keep your shoulders down and back, do you feel it here, like this is where you should feel it and why, and things of that nature. So those are the types of things to look for. But when it comes to living longer, and not just for the sake of living longer, like being confined to a bed, like watching reruns or something like that, but
right,
actually having the quality of life, doing the things that you want to do as time goes by, without aches and pains, without feeling absolutely horrible all the time, then moving more is the absolute key to doing that.
right, right.
Hmm.
Absolutely. You're so right. And
Hmm.
I'm sort of living proof of this. I'm
Hmm.
twice as old as you. And I did heavy, slow and heavy today, chest, back, planks, um, and shoulders.
All right.
Hour and 20 minutes. Let me tell you, slow and heavy. But I
Hmm.
love it. I absolutely love it. And I do it in my own gym. And I just feel like I feel so powerful once I finish because I can still lift that heavy weight
Hmm.
and it's not a strain and I'm not, I'm not dying to do it. It's not like I'm struggling to get it up. So I feel really, really good about that. And I feel
Yeah.
like it's helping my bone density too.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing, when I actually, this is a somewhat funny story, right? I found out your age by chance at the in the computer system, like where we worked, and I was like shocked because I literally thought that you were 15 or 20 years younger. And so I don't say that like surely for like flattery, right? There's like, this is the kind of thing that like moving more will do for you.
Right.
Right, because like, as time goes on, like one final point, like if you look at a 16-year-old that exercises and takes care of themselves and is athletic versus a 16-year-old that does nothing but eat junk and play video games, you really won't be able to tell that much of a difference, right?
Right. Right.
When they're 26 though, you can tell a difference.
Right.
When they're 46, those people are two entirely different ends of the spectrum. And if when you're talking about like 66 and beyond, that's literally the difference between life and death, or having the
Absolutely.
type of life where you're confined to a retirement home, or like a nursing home rather, and like, yeah, yeah. You get the point.
I definitely get the point. I definitely
Yeah.
get the point.
Hmm.
I hope we can do another talk. I hope you're up
Hmm.
for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, we didn't talk about the global system inside. There's just so
Mhm.
many other details about why one wants to maintain a level of fitness, if for no other reason than to enjoy a great sex life for the
Mhm.
rest of their life. Because
Right.
if you have endurance, you can hang in there. And if you have flexibility, you can hang in there. And if you don't even want to be seen. You want the lights out and you don't want to be touched. So I think
Yeah.
quality of life and quality of the body and what shape it's in will definitely motivate you one way or the other to want to continue to enjoy your life sexually and otherwise.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that could certainly be its own separate conversation as well. Because
absolutely,
today we were
absolutely.
talking about like feeling better and like living longer, but
Right.
in terms of like your sexual health and pleasure and being able to maintain that, I mean, there's like the TV sitcom kind of joke that's a very real thing where the cardiologist tells you like, yeah, like you can't engage in like strenuous cardiovascular activity, like you might have a heart attack, and that like takes plenty of things off the table, you know?
It sure does. It sure
Yeah.
does. The greatest pleasures in life are off the table if
Mhm.
you do not have the strength, endurance, flexibility to be able to enjoy them.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, you never know how long you're going to live, but as
Mhm.
long as you are alive, isn't it a good idea to have a level of fitness that allows you to just enjoy whatever comes your way? Whatever you choose to do, you're not saying, oh, I'm too old, I can't do that anymore. The hell with that. I talk to
Mhm.
some 40-year-olds and I'm like, I can still run a mile in 10 minutes. Can you?
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know? So it's really, really important to to be to take care of yourself. That's really what it comes down to. And to
Mhm.
invest some time in that. It doesn't just magically happen. And it's not going to magically happen because you walk a half a mile a day. That's not
Right.
enough. Absolutely not enough. So I
Mhm.
want to thank you very, very much, Peter,
Yeah.
for
Thank
coming
you.
on my show
Mhm.
and for talking with me today. And we'll have to definitely do this again. Okay.
Yes, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to next time and finding out what we're going to talk about then. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Peter. I'll
Yeah,
see you
take care.
again. All right.
Hmm.
Mwah.
Bye. Mhm.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living. Hi, Chris. This is your host, Ellen Nicholas Rathbone, life coach, personal trainer, actually trained as a personal trainer and a fitness consultant. I really do live what I say. And I think it's a really good idea to keep taking care of yourself, because if you're not going to take care of yourself, who's going to take care of you? If you do not think that your health is important enough to invest time in maintaining your body, who the heck is going to do it for you? Nobody. Okay. If you don't think you're important, nobody else is going to think you're important. And so your health really should be one of your main priorities: your health, physical health, mental health, and even spiritual health. So thank you very, very much for joining me today on Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living. Later on this month, we're going to we're going to talk about yoga, which will be another phenomenal conversation. And so I look forward to having you join me again next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. And please recommend this. If you like this show, please like it on YouTube, recommend it on Facebook. We are not allowed to advertise or to boost our program in any way, because sometimes the word sexuality comes up, or sometimes the word vibrator is mentioned. And people really, in those corporations, you just can't handle it. So I'm not allowed to tell anybody about this, but I can definitely be referred. So if you like the show, please like it and please recommend it to your friends. And join me every week for another episode of Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living. This is your host saying goodbye for this week. Looking forward to seeing you again next week. Remember to do your Kegels, because if you want to have great sensations, that exercise needs to take place every single day, for men for strength and for women for tightness. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.